Hello, fellow wood chopperoos. The Big Chopperoo and Safety Dan here.
Hey.
And on today's episode, we're going to show you how to make this 17th century style seat. Now, this seat is really useful. At 19 inches high, it makes for a great stool or a nice little table. In fact, back in the day, this was so widely used, you'd find it in the house, in the barn, and even in the yard. You could use a pair of these, and they make great sawhorses. Now, if you've ever been interested in making chairs, this is a great project to teach you some of the basics. Now, every chair is made up of splay and rake. So let me explain those. Rake is the legs angled from the side, which you see we have here on our seat. But splay is the legs angled from the front, which you see we don't have on this. And that's going to make building this a whole lot easier. Now, as far as construction for our stool, well, we're going to have tenons coming off the apron into a mortise into the leg. We're going to do the same thing down here on the stretcher. The leg, well, that's going to be turned on the lathe. And the top is a solid piece of wood, so that's going to want to expand and contract through the seasons. So we're going to show you on how to deal with it. Now, this is a more advanced project, and there could be easier ways to make in the build, but this is a traditional way, and I know it's going to last for a long, long time. Now, before we use any power tools, let's take a tip from Safety Dan.
Always make sure you wear your hearing protection and safety glasses.
Chad begins with some 8/4 or 2-inch lumber. He's ripping it on the table saw to make 2-inch square stock. To remove most of the saw marks and to make sure it's truly square, Chad runs it through the surface planer. Now, using the table saw sled and stop block, he can cut the legs to the exact length, in this case 22 inches in length. Now he's going to turn the legs on the lathe, so a center point must be established. This is the leg shape Chad is going for. He found the pattern in a book and enlarged a photocopy of it. From the photocopy, he made a practice leg that was pleasing to him. He will use this to size the other legs and make reference marks on all of them. Chad is going to use the router table with a 45-degree bit in it to chamfer the edges before putting them in the lathe. Yes, he could have easily did this step on the lathe, we know. Now on the lathe, using those reference marks that he made earlier, he can begin to form the shape. Chad would be the first to admit, his lathe turning skills are not as refined as professional turners. But he somehow butchers his way through it. Perfect. With the legs all turned, it's a good idea to mark them front, side, and even label them individually, so all the proper tenons will fit into the correct mortises. Remember, the side mortises will be angled. Establish where the mortises will be, and mark them by ganging all the legs together. Using a marking gauge, find the center of the leg. Repeat the same process for the mortises at the bottom of the legs too.
Okay, our legs are all marked out and ready to be mortised. But before we do, let's take a look at our table a second. So we're going to have a total of 8 mortises all the way around on this. 2 for each leg. Now the ones for the front, well, those are going to be pretty easy. Those are just going to be straight. But the one on the side, we have to deal with the 7-degree rake. So what I did was, I made a jig. And this jig is going to do a couple of things for me. One, it's going to hold the leg in the cradle. The other thing is, it's got that 7-degree slope that I need. So now when I drill down straight, my tenon and the rail that will go in is going to be at that 7 degrees. Now, we're going to use this jig a little bit later too, so it's going to hold 2 purposes for us, and we'll show you that when the time comes.
With the leg in the jig, Chad can mortise down on his layout lines. It's a good idea to flip the leg around and remortise the hole. You might have the settings slightly off on the machine, and flipping it around, this will make sure that the mortise is perfectly centered in the leg. Now mortise the front legs without the jig, and make sure to still flip the leg around to make the mortise centered.
Okay, so we got the legs all done, and next we'll be making the tenons that will be going into those mortises. But I think we'll save that for our next episode. So, stay tuned for part 2 and the conclusion of making the 17th century style seat. Well, I think there's one more thing that I gotta do.
Oh, no. You're not dancing.
Well, why not? I always do.
You only dance when you complete a project. This one isn't done yet.
Oh, come on, that's just a technicality. They like it when I dance.
No, Chad, trust me. They don't. Trust me
No, they
on
do.
this.
I
No,
get
they
emails
don't
about
like
this.